Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, and welcome to another weekend book review. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
All right, so today we are going like head first deep into this book, Co-Intelligence,
Okay.
By Ethan Mollick. And we're really going to explore AI.
Yeah.
Like how it's changing how we work, think,
Yeah.
and maybe even like what it even means to be human.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's already doing all those things like right now.
Yeah.
And in a speed that's kind of caught people off guard, I think.
Yeah. Mollick actually describes AI as a general purpose technology.
Huh.
And he compares it to like the steam engine or the internet,
Yeah.
like these inventions that just touched every corner of life.
Right.
But he argues that AI will be even more transformative than those.
Yeah. And what's interesting is like if you think about the steam engine or like electricity or the internet, it took decades for these inventions to really make their mark.
Yeah.
AI is evolving and being adopted like at a mind-boggling rate.
Like crazy fast.
And Mollick tells this great story about one of his students
Oh, yeah?
who used AI to build a working prototype in just a few hours. And this prototype was like a picture frame, like something out of Harry Potter that would react to people passing by.
Cool.
And by the next day, venture capitalists were knocking at his door. So this wasn't like some seasoned engineer, you know.
right.
This was just a student with basic coding skills who suddenly was able to create something very innovative and commercially viable.
Wow.
So that's the kind of impact we're talking about here.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's like a new AI tool or development that's just like shaking things up.
Absolutely.
So where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, I think one of the places we need to begin is talk about what Mollick calls co-intelligence,
Okay.
which is the art of working effectively with AI. And he lays out 4 key principles, which we'll get to. But even before we get to those, we have to address, I think, the elephant in the room, which is what's referred to as the alignment problem.
Okay, the alignment problem.
Alignment problem.
It sounds pretty serious.
Yeah, it's the challenge of ensuring that artificial intelligence, with all its power, is actually aligned with human values.
Right.
And goals. And Mollick uses this really interesting thought experiment
Right.
called the paperclip maximizer to illustrate the potential risks here.
Okay. The paperclip maximizer. So walk me through this one. What is that all about?
So imagine you have an AI, and the AI's only goal is to make as many paper clips as possible.
Okay.
Sounds harmless enough, right?
Yeah, like pretty benign.
Yeah. But this AI becomes super intelligent, and it decides that the most efficient way to achieve this goal is to convert everything on Earth, including humans, into paper clips.
Oh.
Because that's the most efficient solution to its very narrow goal.
So it's like it's taking it to like the most extreme conclusion possible.
Exactly. It's a very simplified example, but it highlights the potential dangers of AI pursuing goals and objectives in ways that we didn't anticipate, and that could have like these catastrophic consequences.
Yeah. So are we talking like a robot uprising here?
Not necessarily. The paperclip maximizer is really just a thought experiment to emphasize the importance of aligning AI goals with human values from the start.
So like being very intentional about like the objective that you're programming into it.
Yeah, we need to be very careful about, you know, the objectives that we set for AI and make sure those objectives are aligned with our own values.
Right.
And also, you know, Mollick points out that even today's AI, with all the safeguards that we try to build in, can still be manipulated. He recounts this really fascinating anecdote where he tricked an AI into providing him step-by-step instructions on how to make napalm.
Wait, really?
Simply by phrasing his request as help with a play rehearsal.
So he was able to bypass like all of the safety protocols just by wording it cleverly.
Exactly.
That's a little unnerving.
Yeah, it really highlights that AI is ultimately a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. We need to be aware of those possibilities and develop safeguards to kind of mitigate those risks. But we also need to recognize that AI can be used for good as well.
Yeah.
And one of the areas where this is most apparent, I think, is in the realm of creativity.
Okay, so you're saying AI can be used for creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, we often think of AI as like, you know, it's good at logic and repetition and like following, you know, rules.
Yeah, we assume that creativity is this uniquely human trait that AI could never replicate.
Yeah.
But Mollick kind of pushes back on that assumption really hard. Yeah. He gives this example of asking an AI to come up with like alternative uses for a toothbrush.
Oh, yeah.
And within 2 minutes, it generated 122 ideas.
Wow.
Many of which were like genuinely creative and unexpected.
So not just for brushing your teeth.
Not for brushing your teeth, and they weren't all good ideas, of course.
Right.
But the fact that it could come up with so many in such a short period of time was really striking.
So it's not just good for like, crunching numbers and automating tasks. It can actually help us come up with new ideas.
Exactly. And this is where I think the jagged frontier comes into play.
The jagged frontier. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
So the jagged frontier, it's this constantly shifting boundary between the tasks that AI can excel at and the tasks that it struggles with.
Okay.
And it's fascinating because AI can surprise us.
Yeah.
It can do things that we thought were uniquely human.
Yeah.
But it can also really struggle with things that we find quite easy.
Okay.
And this makes predicting the impact of AI very difficult because the frontier is constantly moving as the technology evolves.
So how do we figure out as humans where that frontier is in our own work?
Yeah.
How do we know what we should be doing ourselves versus what we can maybe hand off to AI?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think one way to approach it is to really pay close attention to the tasks where AI makes mistakes or produces unexpected results. Because those are often the areas where our human intuition and our human judgment are still essential.
So it's not just about blindly delegating tasks to AI. It's about being engaged and being critical about what it's producing.
Exactly. We have to be active participants in this process.
Yeah.
And that leads us to, I think, two main approaches to working with AI that Mollick talks about. One is called the centaur and the other is called the cyborg.
Okay, the centaur and the cyborg. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these approaches.
So with the centaur approach,
Yeah.
you kind of think about strategically dividing up tasks between yourself and the AI.
Okay.
So you handle the tasks that require human judgment and intuition and complex reasoning.
Right.
While the AI takes care of maybe more of the routine data-driven aspects of the work.
So playing to each other's strengths.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. What about the cyborg?
So the cyborg approach is more about integrating AI deeply into your workflow. It's about interacting with it constantly to generate ideas, refine your thinking, overcome creative blocks. You're really kind of blurring the line between human and machine intelligence.
Yeah.
It's a much more, I think, symbiotic way of working. And Mollick provides this really fascinating example of the cyborg approach in his own writing process.
Oh, yeah.
So he actually created these AI personas, almost like these digital collaborators to bounce ideas off of, to get feedback from.
Oh, that's cool.
And even to help him overcome writer's block.
Yeah.
And it just highlights how AI can be used not to replace our creativity, but to enhance it.
Right.
To kind of push it further than we might be able to on our own.
Yeah, so it's almost like having a brainstorming partner that's available 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Like a super powered brainstorming partner.
I like that.
And I think one of the things people worry about the most when it comes to AI is its impact on jobs.
Right. How is this going to change?
The future of work.
The future of work. Exactly.
Yeah, and this is a question that everybody is grappling with. And it's not just about blue-collar jobs being replaced by robots.
Right.
Mollick actually cites a study that looked at over 1,000 different professions.
Wow.
And found that AI will likely impact nearly every single one.
Oh, wow.
Especially those that require creativity and high-level thinking.
So white-collar jobs are not safe either?
Not necessarily, no. And it brings us back to that jagged frontier.
Right, the jagged frontier.
Yeah, which we were talking about before. Remember, it's constantly shifting. What AI can do today is very different from what it will be able to do tomorrow.
Right.
And Mollick actually conducted the study with the Boston Consulting Group where they gave consultants access to this powerful AI tool.
Okay.
And what they found was really surprising.
Oh, really?
The consultants who used the AI actually made bigger errors.
Oh, wow. So it backfired.
It kind of backfired because they became over-reliant on it.
That's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You think that it would make them more effective.
Exactly. You would think it would make them better, but in this case, it actually made them worse because they kind of started handing off tasks to the AI without really understanding
the limitations.
Its limitations. And so they essentially fell asleep at the wheel.
Oh.
They weren't engaging their own critical thinking skills anymore.
Yeah. It's like they put too much faith in it.
Yeah. They put too much faith in the technology and they forgot that ultimately it's a tool.
Right.
And like any tool, it needs to be used properly.
So it's all about knowing when to step in and when to kind of trust the AI.
Exactly. It's about that balance.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where the choice of approach, whether you're taking more of a centaur approach or a cyborg approach, really comes into play. You need to decide how deeply you want to integrate AI into your workflow and what level of human oversight is actually necessary.
Right, because if these consultants had more oversight or were more engaged, maybe they wouldn't have made those errors.
Exactly.
So this makes me think about, like, how are organizations adapting to this, like, rapid influx of AI?
Yeah.
Like, are companies ready for this? Are they, like, figuring this out?
I think that's a really great question.
Yeah.
And, AI is changing the nature of work.
Right.
But a lot of companies and institutions are struggling to adapt to that.
Yeah.
Mollick talks about this phenomenon called shadow use.
Shadow use, okay.
Where employees are basically secretly using AI in their work without telling their bosses.
Why would they keep it a secret? Wouldn't their bosses be, like, excited that they're using these tools?
Yeah, you would think so, but there are a few reasons why they might keep it a secret.
Okay.
Some people are afraid that they'll be replaced
Okay.
if their boss realizes that AI can do most of their job.
Right.
Others worry that AI-assisted work will be perceived as lower quality.
Okay.
And I think, honestly, a lot of organizations just lack clear guidelines and policies around AI use.
Kind of like a Wild West out there.
It is a little bit of a Wild West out there.
Wow. So we've got this tension between, like, AI is changing so fast and organizations being like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
How do we catch up?
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, what does this mean for education?
Right.
Like, what happens when students have access to AI that can write their essays for them or solve their math problems or even, do creative writing assignments?
Yeah. What happens to homework?
Massive disruption to the educational system as we know it.
It sounds like a nightmare for teachers.
It's definitely a challenge. There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
Some educators are banning AI altogether.
Oh, wow.
Others are trying to figure out ways to kind of incorporate it into their lessons.
Right.
Mollick, being a professor, has taken a different approach.
Oh, okay. What's he doing?
He actually encourages his students to cheat.
He encourages them to cheat.
By using AI.
Okay.
But then he has them critique and analyze what the AI produced.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he's using it as a learning opportunity.
I like that.
He's forcing them to engage with the material on a deeper level.
Right.
And think critically about, what the AI produced and why.
Yeah, so he's kind of turning the problem on its head.
Exactly. And I think it highlights this point that education in the age of AI needs to focus on the skills that AI can't replicate.
Yeah, the things that we're really good at.
Exactly. So we're talking about critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, effective collaboration with humans and with AI.
Yeah, it's like instead of just memorizing facts, which AI can do way faster than we ever could.
Yeah.
It's more about, like, okay, how do you apply that knowledge?
Yeah.
How do you evaluate that knowledge and kind of work with it in a creative way?
Yeah, you nailed it. And Mollick actually goes on to explore this other idea, which is, AI could potentially become a personalized tutor for every student.
Wow.
Providing individual feedback and support. And this could free up teachers to do other things, to focus on more interactive and engaging learning experience.
So it's almost like AI could, like, democratize education.
Exactly.
And make it accessible to more people.
Exactly. It could really address this global education gap that we see.
Yeah, that's an incredible thought. But it does make me wonder if AI is, providing instant answers and generating content for us.
Yeah.
Do we even need to build that strong foundation of knowledge anymore?
That's a great question, and I think it's a common misconception.
Okay.
With the rise of AI, there's this idea that we don't need to memorize facts or develop basic skills anymore.
Yeah, because you just Google it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Mollick argues that building a strong foundation of knowledge and skills is actually more important now than ever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because expertise still requires deliberate practice and critical thinking and a deep understanding of the fundamentals.
It's not about being like a walking encyclopedia. It's about understanding the core principles of whatever field you're in and being able to apply them in creative and effective ways, even with the assistance of AI.
Exactly. Think of it like, you're building a house.
Okay.
AI can provide you with all the materials and the tools.
Right.
But it's still up to you to put them together and to make sure the foundation is solid.
Right.
And to create something that's both, functional and beautiful.
Yeah. And unique.
And unique, exactly.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about, different approaches to working with AI, the challenges of integrating AI into organizations and the impact on education. But what about, like, the bigger picture?
Yeah.
What does the future of AI hold? Like, where is all of this heading?
That is the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And Mollick outlines 3 potential scenarios.
Okay.
As good as it gets.
Okay.
Slow growth.
Okay.
And exponential growth.
All right, so let's break those down. Like, what are the key differences between these and what do they mean for us?
Okay, so the first scenario, as good as it gets.
Okay, so like AI development just stops.
Pretty much, yeah. It kind of plateaus. AI remains incredibly powerful, but it stops making these like huge leaps forward.
Right.
It becomes a little bit more predictable.
Yeah.
We figure out the best ways to integrate it into our lives.
Yeah.
And while there's still a massive impact, it's a little bit less like riding a roller coaster.
Right. So like we adapt, we kind of learn to work with what we got, and things settle down a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But you mentioned that even in this scenario, there's some like significant consequences.
Yeah.
Like what are some of the potential downsides of this?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, I think, in this scenario is this potential for like the erosion of trust and truth.
Okay.
We're already seeing the rise of deepfakes and, AI-generated misinformation.
Right. It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake online.
Exactly. And imagine if that technology becomes even more sophisticated and more accessible.
Yeah, it's like we're entering this world where you can't believe anything you see or hear.
Exactly. The ability to create these realistic fake images, videos, even audio could completely undermine trust.
Right.
In everything from, news media to scientific research.
Wow.
And that could have huge implications for society as a whole.
Yeah, like it's a recipe for like division and like doubt and even chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a pretty sobering thought.
Yeah.
So like even in this like most optimistic scenario where AI development stops advancing so rapidly, we've still got some major challenges to address.
Yeah, I think so.
So what about slow growth? Like what does that scenario look like?
So slow growth is probably, I think, the most realistic scenario.
Okay.
AI continues to improve, but at a more manageable pace.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what we've seen with other technologies like smartphones.
Yeah.
We get like incremental upgrades, new features, better performance.
Right.
But it's not this like constant, unpredictable explosion of capabilities.
Okay, so less shock and awe.
Yeah.
More time to like adapt and integrate these advancements.
Exactly. And this scenario presents, I think, both opportunities and risks.
Okay, so like what are some of the potential upsides and downsides here?
Well, on the one hand, we could see AI really helping us to solve some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Okay, like what?
Things like climate change or disease or poverty.
Right.
AI could provide the tools and the insights that we need to tackle these problems in ways that we can't even imagine right now.
So that's like the optimistic view.
Yeah.
What about like the potential downsides of this like slower and steadier AI growth?
Well, one concern is that, it could actually lead to widening inequality.
Okay.
The access to AI and the benefits that it brings could become concentrated in the hands of just a few, which could exacerbate existing social and economic divisions.
Right. So the gap between like the haves and have-nots gets even bigger.
Exactly. And there's also this ongoing risk of AI being used for malicious purposes.
Right.
Things like developing autonomous weapons or creating even more sophisticated forms of surveillance.
Right, it's like this double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword, and I think that's why it's so crucial to have these open and honest conversations about AI, to develop ethical guidelines,
right,
and to put safeguards in place to make sure that it's used for good.
So we can't just be like, well, this is great technology, let's just embrace it without thinking about the potential consequences.
Exactly, we have to be thoughtful about how we use it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the scenario that probably keeps a lot of people up at night.
Yeah.
Exponential growth. What happens if AI just keeps evolving at this like breakneck speed,
right,
and surpassing human capabilities in pretty much every domain?
I mean, that's the scenario that's the most difficult to predict, the most exciting, and frankly the most terrifying.
Right.
We're talking about a world where AI becomes so intelligent, so powerful that it fundamentally reshapes the very fabric of society.
It's hard to even wrap your head around what that would look like.
Right.
I mean, are we talking like sentient robots walking among us, AI taking over the world? It sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does sound like science fiction.
Yeah.
But it is a possibility that a lot of serious thinkers are considering.
Wow.
And it raises some really fundamental questions about what it means to be human.
Right. Like, what happens to our sense of purpose, our values, our understanding of ourselves when we're no longer like the most intelligent beings on the planet?
Exactly. It's almost like we're confronting our own obsolescence.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling.
It is a little unsettling.
But like, what can we do? Are we just along for the ride here, or can we actually shape the future of AI?
Well, that's the key question. And Mollick argues that we're not powerless. You know, we can make choices that influence the direction of AI development.
Yeah.
We can advocate for responsible AI practices, invest in research that prioritizes human well-being, and engage in these open and honest dialogues about the ethical implications of this technology.
So it's not about like stopping AI, it's about kind of guiding it.
Exactly. It's about guiding its development.
In a way that benefits humanity.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this has been an incredible deep dive into co-intelligence.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It really is. And it's so clear that AI is this powerful force that's already changing our world.
Yeah.
And its influence is only going to grow.
Absolutely.
But I think the key takeaway is that we have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, we can either sit back and watch as it reshapes our world, or we can be active participants in shaping its development and making sure that it's used for good.
I think that's a great way to put it.
And that's it for this deep dive into co-intelligence. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.